For every kid who plays hockey in New England, playing in the NHL is just a dream. But for Noah Hanifin, at the age of 19, that dream is a reality. I'm Joel Idelson, and this is New England Hockey Journal.
Each path to the top can be different from the next. For Norwood, Massachusetts native Noah Hanifin, the path to the NHL included a carefully planned set of stepping stones. Each step took him closer to a fate that was never guaranteed. Hanifin's story starts like so many others. He was an athletic kid who enjoyed playing many sports. Yet it was hockey that tugged on his sleeve, pulling him into a game that would change his life forever.
I played a few sports. I played football, hockey, baseball when I was a kid, but there's something about the winter. I always got a little bit more excited for hockey season than the other sports. So, I think my dad knew too when I was a young kid that I loved hockey, and I think he really pushed me with that and helped me get to where I need to be.
People told me when he was 7, 8 years old that he was really good, but again, he was 7 and 8, so I would just sort of, yeah. Around 10, 11 years old, I knew, I started to see that, he had a pretty special talent. But not only Noah, a lot of the kids he played with, as a group, the South Shore King team, they were all great players.
Well, when I first got to the Kings, Neil, I think he saw the size of me and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna put him on defense." But originally I was a forward. So our thing was when I was little, I played forward for Norwood and I played D for the Kings. And I think it's good for every little kid to experience both positions to really get used to the game and see the game from different aspects. And I try to be more of an offensive defenseman and join the rush and contribute offensively. And I think being a forward when I was a little kid and getting used to playing with the puck and jumping in the rush and stuff like that. I started looking at schools when I was in the 6th grade probably. I applied to Noble, St. Sebastian's, Thayer, all those ISL schools. And I knew I had the most history at St. Sebastian's. My cousin, who I actually live with and I'm really close with, he went to St. Sebastian's. Okay. He graduated in 2005, so I was always around the school, going to his sporting games. And there's just something about the community. It's such a special community. It's an all-boys Catholic school, and all my best friends now are still from St. Sebastian's. And Bill Burke, who's the headmaster there, he has such a big influence on all the students who go there, and he's such a good role model for us. And I think this the community itself is so special, and I was so happy I went there. Sean McCann, who's the head coach there, and Jed Doherty, they were two great coaches for me that helped me so much in my development. Starting in the 8th grade, they allowed me to play in the 8th grade, which not too many coaches probably would have done. Let an 8th grade play varsity hockey, and they did. And they let me go out there and play my game. And going from the 8th grade through my sophomore year, I played with them, and my experience was unbelievable. Our team was, we never won anything, but we were pretty close. We made it to the prep finals a few times, and we just had a blast. And like I said, it's just a small community, and all the guys from our school go to games. They call it Henry's Corner. So we had a great fan base every game, and it was just such a good experience. I think those are some of my fondest memories.
By the time he arrived at St. Sebastian's, Hanifin's stock was rising. His natural gifts of size and poise put him at the head of the class. For rising hockey stars, those first 2 years of high school can shape your future. Hanifin had plenty of suitors. With an assist from his tight-knit family, Hanifin now had to choose which path would lead him closer to his dream.
End of my freshman year, beginning of my sophomore year, I started sitting down with my family, and obviously certain teams were approaching me. The national teams, some USHL teams, the Quebec League started knocking on the door a little bit. So, I think my family and I knew we had a decision to make soon, and we started sitting down and just discussing the pros and cons of what would help me the most in my development, both as a person and as a player. And we also talked to St. Sebastian's, quite a bit, because we were extremely close to the school, and like I said, I was very close with all the students and the headmaster there and all my teachers. So, we had many discussions leading up to the decision I had to make, and I think St. Sebastian's and my family were so helpful.
We are here at the Own the Moment store in Burlington, Massachusetts. I'm here with Mike Lane, who is a personal fit expert here at the Bauer store. Mike, we're here to talk about sticks. And I know that I think I'm a Supreme guy. I could be a Nexus guy. Can you talk about the differences here?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, by the way, and welcome to our store. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there's a fit for everyone here at Bauer. Real quick, our Vapor stick is what we call low kick technology, or quick release taper, QRT.
So when you hear Vapor, you're going to hear QRT.
You're going to hear
quite a bit related to that stick. And what does that mean?
So basically what that means, it's a quick release, basically a low technology, the puck's coming off your stick, like really good for snapshots, really good for wrist shots. We don't like to differentiate between the sticks in regards to forward sticks should use this or defenseman should use that. I think it's more or less kind of like what works for you.
Okay.
And the Vapor is more of our low kick technology.
All right, so when we talk about Nexus, you hear sweet spot technology.
Yes,
what's the difference between a Vapor and a Nexus?
Vapor and the Nexus, the biggest difference in that, and again, we go back to this, but it's more of a kick, and the mid kick is where we're talking about the sweet spot technology.
Okay.
So it's what we call our most accurate stick. So if you're going to put something into a category and you want, you're looking for that accuracy, this is the stick.
Nexus would be the stick for you.
Yeah.
And finally, Supreme. I think I'm a Supreme guy. I've been using Supreme for quite a while. You hear MPK technology when you hear Supreme.
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
So that means what we call maximum power kick. So for the guy that likes the one-timers, the booming slap shots from the point, that's where you're going to get the energy transfer from this stick, we call mid to high kick point.
Okay.
That's where you're going to get the high energy shot.
Okay, so how can I find out my true fit?
Your true fit, we can take this right onto the ice. The best part about this is we have the surface here.
All right.
I'm really curious to see how you stick if you're really a Supreme guy.
Let's check it out. All right, Mike, so we're truly doing the blind taste test here to figure out what's the right fit for me here. So let's try stick number one. Wow. All right. I like that. I like that so far. Okay. Stick number two. A little bit more kick on that one. And stick number three. I don't like that one at all. I think I like stick number one. All right, Mike, I'm nervous to find out. Stick number one was my pick. What was it?
You're gonna be shocked at this, but the Vapor 1X.
Oh my God. Wow. I always thought I was a Supreme guy. Unbelievable.
That's why we do it.
Careful consideration and planning helped plot the next chapter of Hanifin's hockey story. He decided to play for the U.S. National Development Team based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It was a long way from the hub, but playing with the best underage players in the country was too difficult to pass up.
It was hard. Do you send your kid away to play in a city, halfway across the country, or do you keep them home where you want to still parent your own son, and it was a tough decision.
It was extremely hard. I remember we drove out. It was like a 13-hour drive out to Michigan, and
Who drove you out?
My whole family came out.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, and it was one of those things I didn't really know what I was getting into. Going to play with a new team, new faces. It wasn't going to be as comfortable and as happy, as St. Sebastian's necessarily was. It was going to be a lot more, hard work and just trying to ready myself for hopefully someday playing in the NHL and getting ready for college and that stuff. And when I got out there, it was right down to business. It was all training, and we played in the USHL, and obviously we were all like 16, 17 years old, so we were pretty young playing in the USHL, and it was a tough experience. You're really pushing yourself mentally and physically to get better, and you're living with a new family, a different family. And
Were you with the Billet family?
I lived with the Billet family. Yep. So I was. I was by myself living with the Billet family, and obviously it was tough, not being around my family as much. But
You get homesick a lot doing that?
yeah, I do. But I think everyone did. We were all pretty young, and I think that's what helped the decision and helped make the experience a lot smoother. Is that we were all going through the same. That we all had 16, 17-year-old kids who were homesick, and we were going to the rink every day. It's a situation where it's not for everybody. I don't think, some kids may necessarily not have needed to go to the national program. They may want to stay at home for another year. And some guys it was the right decision, and some guys, who came into the program who weren't necessarily the best players are now very, very good players, and they'll probably be playing in the NHL very shortly. So I think it's definitely a good opportunity to go out and push yourself, and it's not necessarily for everybody, but I think it's a very good place to develop. It was just about challenging myself. I think at the beginning of the year at the program, I felt that I got a lot better because I was pushing myself, I was challenging myself, and at the end of the year, I felt that I was pretty satisfied with where my game was. I felt that I developed the right way and how much I needed to, and I felt that going to BC the following year was going to prepare me even more for my ultimate goal, which was to play in the NHL. And I always wanted to play for BC, and it was my dream to play for Jerry York and go to that school and play in the Bean Pod, and I felt that I was ready, both physically and mentally to go play college hockey and be around men and stuff like that. And I think it was definitely the right decision to make. Whenever you accelerate any level in hockey, there's always going to be an adjustment period, and there'll be games where you're just trying to feel it out and stuff like that. And that definitely happened to me at BC for the first few months. And I think up until about the World Juniors, I think it was all adjusting and getting used to the speed. Like you said, being a defenseman it's a little bit different. You have a little bit more responsibility back there, and if you make mistakes, they can be pretty costly and stuff like that. So I think I was just getting used to that experience, and I think after the World Juniors coming back, I had a lot more confidence, and I think my game started to take off in the second half at BC, and unfortunately our team didn't get to where we wanted to go, but I think just being able to go to school for a year and experience the college life and play hockey with all those guys and play for Jerry York was one of the best memories I can have.
I'm here with Mike Donahue from APT, from the New England Sports Village in Attleboro, Massachusetts, and today we're here at their Falmouth, Mass location. Mike, today we're going to talk about the proper way to do a plank.
Yeah, so the biggest thing with our plank is it trains our core. So the biggest advantage for us is to get an athlete in the proper position and then work our core from there. A lot of times we see guys in a really poor postured position, and they think that that's the core training that they're trying to get after.
All right, let's see how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Mike, the key to doing a good plank is doing it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times we see our athletes in a bad position to start, and I think it's really important to cue the posture and then let them work in that.
Well, let's see the wrong way to do it
Yeah,
first.
good. So we have Rachel here, and with Rachel, we typically see this where our hips are low and our upper body is really stressed here. So how we cue this with our athletes, we bring our hips up a little bit higher. We ask her to posteriorly tilt her hips and bring them back. We ask her to create tension, and I'll check that tension by putting a little bit of pressure on her.
And this
to make
is hard
sure I
to
can't
do
move
right
her.
now. This is tough to
this is a
hold.
challenge. I mean, Rachel's definitely working here, and this is a spot where Rachel's core muscles, which are any muscles that kind of influence the hip or shoulder, those things work real hard there.
Yeah, and you can see she was laboring there.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult posture.
Obviously, the big difference here is not how long you can plank for, but doing a plank properly.
Yeah, so once we get you in that position, we want you to work in that posture. As soon as the posture starts to kind of fail, then we'll move on and do a different drill.
I'm here with Tim Lovell from Lovell Hockey, and we're at the Pilgrim Arena in Hingham, Massachusetts. Tim, today we're going to talk about two different shooting techniques, the wrist shot and the snap shot. Tell us what we need to know about each.
Wrist shot's basically for the young kid growing up. It's about weight transfer, keeping your eyes on your target where you want to put the puck and your follow through. We teach at the young age, everything should be a wrist shot up until a certain point. Snapshot's a little more advanced. It's for the kid as he gets older, using your strength in your wrist like that, and then following through. Kind of a little different mechanic to the shot.
All right, so Noah's going to show how it's done?
Absolutely.
All right. All right, yeah, so his eyes are up every time.
His eyes are up, but if you really watch him, how he transfers his weight on his shot.
Yeah, he gets on that front foot, right. What are we looking for here?
If you're looking for transfer of weight, keeping his eyes up as he comes in. You see as he crosses over, his eyes are up at the cage.
And he
follows through his target.
Still transferring that weight nice, too.
Bringing the puck behind his body and then follows through at the end.
All right, so from the wrist shot to the snapshot, what's the big difference here?
Big difference would be the strength of the kid as he gets older, releasing the puck and snapping on, tapping through.
Obviously, it's important to see that Noah's eyes were up when he's shooting, right? And if he wants to hit his target, he can kind of guide that depending on how he finishes, high or low.
Yeah, his follow through, depending on where he wants to put the puck. Obviously, he's an advanced player. He can pretty much pick out his spots from his follow through.
When I got to the NHL, some of the stuff I've heard from older guys was, confidence is 95% of it. And I would say, the mental game is so big, especially once you get to the pro level, because the line between great players and good players and average players is so small. Everyone's so good. You just have to find ways to give yourself edges and advantages. And I remember I lived with Nathan Garvey this year, and he was just always telling me confidence is key. You have to have confidence. And I noticed it. At the beginning of the year, my first year in the NHL, and obviously I didn't have as much confidence in the world because I was new to the league. I was just experiencing it, and I was trying to learn.
Hanifin's ascension to the top was faster than most. He spent just 1 year with the National Team Development Program. After moving on to Boston College, he was already considered a prized prospect. And then came perhaps the toughest decision of all: play another season at BC or turn pro.
It was tough because there's no guarantees. When Noah signed with Carolina, there were no guarantees that he was going to make the team. And the question is, do you give up another year of college? Ultimately, I'd love to see him get his degree. And is it worth it to go play in the AHL for a year, which was a possibility? And so everything's unknown, and you got to have faith and go with what you think.
Yeah, I think it's just day by day. You play a really good game, and then you move on. You slowly start to build confidence, and you start to realize, hey, I can not only fit in here, but I can contribute, and I can start to play my game. And it takes time. It doesn't just happen after one game or 1 week. It takes months and months, and sometimes even years to really get there for some guys. And I just noticed a huge difference between my mindset going into games from the beginning of the year to the last few games of the year. I just felt so much more confident and comfortable. And when you're in that mindset and you're going out and playing, with that mentality, your game can really take off when you're confident.
Part of building that confidence is putting in extra work during the off-season. He works out with dozens of professional athletes in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Additionally, he spends time with skills coach Tim Lovell and boxing coach Tommy McInerney, working on core strength, fitness, and fisticuffs.
He's got a lot of potential, picks up things easy, and but it goes back to condition him real well, and so he doesn't have to, almost the confidence there, which a lot of young kids need.
So again, we'll do a couple more. Walk the line, take your shot, come back, we'll do it again. Go. Yep. Pretty good. And again, the reason why the stutter step is because of the guy up top finding a lane through the middle of the ice, getting your shot to the cage. Go again, same thing. A little quicker, right? A little quicker. Good.
As his first pro season wound down, the 19-year-old Hanifin found himself in a suspended state of reality. It was early April, and the Hurricanes were in town for a game against the Bruins. Boston had a lot at stake. They needed a win to make the playoffs. The team battled to a tie, and overtime didn't produce a winner. The Bruins season was in the hands of one of Boston's own.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had all my family there. I probably had about 45 people there.
Really?
Yeah, it was a blast, and we were tied 1-1, and it was a good game. It was back and forth, and obviously it was a huge game for Boston. They were really pushing, and we ended up going into a shootout, and I think there was 5 rounds went by, and no one was scoring on either team, and my coach just like, hey, well, let's give the hometown kid a shot, I guess. He tapped me on the back, and I just went out, and I kind of just blacked out. I didn't really know what was going on, and I just went down. And
Noah Hanifin, Norwood, St. Sebastian's, Boston College. First shootout attempt of his career to try to win it at TD Garden, and he does!
Went to my back, and it was there, and it was such a, yeah, it was a pretty fun experience.
Like in the locker room right after?
Oh, everyone was giving it to me. It was so funny, and I got a lot of mean texts after that game from all my buddies from Boston, so it was awesome.